Alright guys, welcome back. Today I kind of figured I'd take you through on how to kind of go ahead and use configurations in your part menu. These are actually really useful for assemblies and kind of comparing different versions of something that is slightly different and you don't want to mess around with multiple part files. Plus there's a few advantages of being able to switch in and out between each configuration in an assembly without breaking any mates. So it's a really useful and really powerful, and not a lot of people kind of realize it's there. So I'm going to kind of show you how to get in there. So pretty much to kind of get started, just go on ahead in here, hit a brand new part, open it up, and I'm actually going to kind of show you using, say if you wanted to use standardized 4x4 steel beams to make a structure of some kind, and you knew you'd have a whole bunch of different sizes of the 4x4 beam, and some of them would have different angled cuts, some of them would have holes in it, some of them would be different lengths, etc., etc. So what I'm going to kind of show you is how to first of all make your first one, and then go ahead and make your configurations after. So I guess to kind of start, I'll show you where the configuration is. So this is the configuration manager. It's to the right, two tabs of your featured design tree. And once you click it here, you'll be able to see all your configurations once you've created them. But as you can see here, we're stuck here on the default because, well, we haven't even made a part and we haven't edited and created other configurations. So pretty much your first step in using configurations is making your very first part and creating your first, I guess, version of whatever it is you're making. So in our case, we're going to jump right back over here into the part. I'm going to go ahead and use, I think I'm going to start off with a 12-foot steel 4x4 quarter inch thick, and I'm going to use the toolbox, and I'm going to use the standardized part or the standardized beam sketching that's part of SolidWorks itself. I'd highly recommend using this instead of actually going ahead and sketching it yourself, because this is actually correct, and you can always edit, you can always change the properties of it through the SolidWorks menu instead of having to go back into the sketching, which is actually really useful. But for instance, so once you click this little button here, once you have the tool, you need to first load the toolbox. So just as you saw me do, just click this toolbox button and wait like 30 seconds to a minute. It'll load right in, and then go ahead and hit the structural steel little button up here, and then this will kind of give you all of the commercially available standardized kind of structural members that has been programmed into SolidWorks. And you can actually see here there's a whole bunch of different ones, but I'm going to go TS, so and then you can, so structural 4x4 quarter inch thick, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that. They have a beam calculator here, so you can crunch some actual numbers in SolidWorks itself, which is really cool, but I'm not going to go into that right now. So we're just going to go 4x4 2.5 or quarter inch, sorry, create. Done. So then that loads a sketch in here, and from here we can actually just go ahead and extrude this out, and we're going to go just make sure to select the right thing. Sometimes you get the inside here and that's not what you want, so I'm just going to go 12-foot sections. So say we get these shipped in 12-foot sections, and from there on after we're going to be cutting from these segments. So kind of think about it how you're going to get it shipped to you if it's a structural member like this. So I know that they have these in like 8-foot segments too, and 6 and 4 and whatever, but if you can fit everything from 12-foot and cut everything from these, then might as well just go with this. But I kind of wanted to do this to show you the default, and we're going to go ahead and cut away from this because it's a little easier to remove material and have it work than necessarily add stuff. Sometimes you might have to do a little tweaking in order to get it to work between two different configurations. But so say we're happy with this part as it is right now. and now this is our default, and now we want to do an 8-foot section cut, a 6-foot, a 4-foot, and a 2-foot, and then we can always add like holes and stuff like that later. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So say we want to make a 8-foot segment right now, so we're going to go, so if you're in your manager design tree over here, make your way over to configuration manager, and then just right click on your part name and go add configuration. Just name it whatever you're going to call it, but I'm going to say 8-foot steel 4x4 by 0.25, and say if you're going to use this in a bill of materials for an assembly later on, you would want to reference this in the bill of materials, and you want to make sure that each name for each configuration is unique, so that when you load it into your bill of materials, it doesn't just give it all the same name, because that does tend to happen. So once you're happy, and there's some other advanced features down here, like you can give each specific configuration a specific color, and it can help you identify parts in large assemblies, which is really nice. But for the most part, I don't really use that. So once you're happy with the name and bill of materials and comments and description, these get imported with your part. So if you're going to be dealing with a lot of parts, you might as well name it right now and give it a description right now. And it will help you later on when you make assembly drawings. So yeah, once you're happy with that, just check and make sure that you're actually in this part, and you'll actually see is now this is our default part, and it has its own little window, and now we have this 8-foot segment. But as you can see, it's still exactly the same as our default, because we still have yet to do anything to it. So we're actually going to go ahead and make a sketch on this. And I'm actually going to go ahead and cut away 2 feet's worth, or no, actually we did a 12-foot. So we're going to cut away 4 feet, if I can do math. So then now we're going to go ahead and extrude that, cut that, get rid of that through all both. Boop. So now this is our 8-foot segment, and there's different ways you can do this, and this is kind of the very basic way. There's other ways that you can say when you were, instead of cutting away, you can go back into here and edit this this original feature. So say we wanted to do, instead of cutting away 4 feet, we just wanted to make this, go back into edit feature, and we wanted to make this length 8 feet. So instead it's now just a default 8 foot, and we didn't cut anything. You can just go in here, say this configuration, make sure to hit this configuration only, because that means it'll only edit this one, it won't edit the other one, and you can make this 8 feet here. That way it's just one step, and then you still have a difference between the default and the 8-foot. There's certain advantages and disadvantages to doing it either way. Thing is if you tend to add steps, sometimes like your design tree here will get super complicated. There'll be a lot of steps, and for the majority of the parts, half of them will be hidden, and you won't be able to access them. And then when you go into your configurations, it'll activate and suppress other certain features. So it can get kind of clunky. So that's if you keep adding and removing cuts and stuff, as opposed to trying to condense it into the original boss extrude itself. That's just something to keep in mind. It's not necessarily really that important, but I'll kind of show you what I mean. Let me pull up. Bear with me for a second. Okay. So this is actually a different way of using configurations to kind of your advantage. So I'll show you kind of what I initially did. So this is a little case kind of stand looking thing. So what I initially did is I made the whole part on its own in one piece. So as you can see, this is all one kind of part. It's no assembly or anything. I added all these features and I made this. But the thing is that I was needing to 3D print it, and I was not going to 3D print it like this because I need to be able to take it apart and add some electronics and stuff on the inside. So a way that I was able to use the configurations is that first of all, I made the default shape. So then now if I ever edit any of the overall dimensions, it'll update all of these as well, which is really nice. And I gave most of these names as well, so I can call these in functions and then I can relate them together, which helps a lot. But essentially what I did is I made the default, and then I made another one with an added cutout and some added features, so that I wouldn't mess up the original default one if I made a mistake. But then from there, I went ahead and I actually cut away pieces. I added steps, because as you can see that even this one with some of the cuts only gets to about step here, 3 steps from the top, and then the last 3 steps are actually me cutting away sections of this model into files that can be 3D printed. And here I'll show you. So like this is the top section, and if we go back over here, you can see that this one's highlighted now and these 2 are still suppressed. And then when we go to the other configuration, middle section, this top one is now hidden, this one's shown, and this one's still hidden. And you can kind of see how the motivation behind doing that is now I can 3D print these 3 sections and then assemble them together. So that's kind of another way you can use configurations, and you can give them your own little name. So that's what I did over here. And you can kind of see what I mean by you're adding more and more steps as you're adding or subtracting material, and then that means you can add a lot of more steps to this side over here. So I mean, it really depends on what you're trying to do. And a very cool thing is that, so say if we were going to go over here and I was going to go ahead and make a assembly from this file, or from this part. And the thing is this is kind of why configurations are really powerful. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to insert 3 of these for my 3 parts. So essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to so actually, well, there's a few ways that you can get the different configurations. So when you initially click your part, you can see a configuration drop down here, which actually lets you pick which one you want, or you can pick the default, or you can pick the complete one. So that's one way to do it. Otherwise, you can kind of do it how I did. I just imported the number I needed, and then you can actually change the part by right-clicking on it and by clicking on this drop down, and then this will give you the part you need, or essentially you'll be able to choose whichever one you want. And that's kind of how you do it. And now the interesting part about this is that if they if they all kind of have the same or similar overall dimensions, they're actually going to be able to be swapped out without breaking mates. So I'll kind of show you what I mean. So we're going to pick this outer surface, so now they're concentrically lined up. Hopefully, no, there we go. Do the same with this. And then we're going to put this guy up here. Yeah, I'm just going to make sure everything's secured. So now, say we wanted, for some unknown reason, we were like, we didn't want this top piece to be, well, this piece. Say we wanted another middle kind of section piece instead of this. What we can actually do is find this top part, top section, go in here, change the part, and Oh, okay, it broke one. So now, where'd it go? Huh. Okay, I guess you kind of get the point. Don't, if you're gonna change a part, then you're gonna maybe have to edit a few mates. Just don't. I guess just don't over define it too early if you're still in the process of switching around parts. But that's kind of the motivation behind using kind of configurations. If you want a much more in-depth way of using, this is kind of a conceptual way of how to use configurations and like what it does. If you want a tutorial on how to like just, I guess, use it, I mean, it's no different than just making multiple parts. It's just filing it under a single part and you have access to all of them. That's kind of the main thing that you kind of need to understand about configurations. So we'll see that. Sorry, I'm getting lost thinking about too many things. All right, so yeah, I'll save that. I was not really planning on doing this, so figured I might as well save it. But so yeah, that's configurations. Let me know if you really want me to cover something. Otherwise, I'm going to try to do next. I made a list somewhere where the I'm probably going to try to do an assembly FEA and do a little more in-depth stuff on meshing and then maybe some CFD. Yeah, I got a lot to kind of work on, so today was kind of testing out this mic too, so we're going to see how it turns out. See y'all next time.